There is one paradox that lies at the core of every insecure attachment style. Everything we read or talk about usually, for example, overthinking, the push-pull, the anxiety, withdrawals, is just a reaction to this paradox. It's all an adaptation. That's why most advice focuses on the symptoms, but not the real cause. But when you notice this single starting point, the moment the insecure response begins, everything changes. You can start to rewrite the entire pattern right from its root. And there is a lot of content about traits of each style: anxious, avoidant, disorganized, tons of information about them. But if you think about it, attachment always means there is something you or someone you are attached to. So everything starts with how you perceive the other person. The main difference between secure and insecure attachers is in this perception. Insecure attachers see the other person through a certain paradox. And this paradox is the reason it often feels like connection keeps ending. But the truth is the connection doesn't actually end because of either person. It's just hard for it to survive the tension of that paradox. So the paradox lies in how insecure attachers perceive the other person. For someone with an anxious attachment, the other person is seen as both fragile, someone who can't handle their real emotions or their needs, the needs of whoever has the anxious attachment style, and at the same time, powerful. So they see the other person fragile and powerful. The one powerful as the one who decides whether the relationship continues or ends. For someone with an avoidant attachment, the other person is seen as both intrusive, devouring, and at the same time rejecting. And I call this a paradox of guessing the right distance instead of actually connecting. Because when you see the other person this way, all you can do is keep trying to find the balance between these two opposite interpretations of the reality, of finding the right distance rather than actually meeting the other person, connecting with them. Anxious attachers often see the other person as emotionally fragile, someone they have to protect from their own depth. So they hold back, believing their feelings are too much, that their needs are too demanding, their anger too dangerous. It's as if the other person is too sensitive to handle intensity or disagreement or emotional truth that are essential parts of every relationship. This creates an inner rule. I have to hide certain parts of myself to keep love safe. They take on the role of emotional regulator in the relationship by constantly absorbing tension. And it starts when a child received a message in some form from a caregiver that their feelings caused that caregiver's distress. So now even asking for something small feels like you're asking for too much. Their emotions and needs feel almost like something that they don't have the right to express and need to protect the other person from it. But when you keep holding everything in like that, your needs, your frustration, your truth, resentment naturally starts to build. And because resentment also feels forbidden, like it might threaten the bond, it gets turned inward in the shape of guilt, anxiety, self-criticism. Over time, that pressure leaks out as passive frustration or emotional outburst or quiet withdrawal. Confused, doing nothing but just confusing both partners. It's a loop. The more they hide their intensity or preserve harmony, the more distant and resentful they feel, which only deepens the fear that they are too much. Anxious attachers move between two poles. When the fear of abandonment is triggered, they see the partner as fragile and try to protect the bond at any cost. When the fear of rejection is triggered, they see the partner as powerful, the only one who decides whether love continues or ends. Both perceptions are distortions, but together they recreate the original imbalance. The powerless child trying to manage the powerful adult. And before we move to avoidant paradox for the avoidant attachment, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe, comment. This is very important for me and for the growth of this channel. Avoidant attachers often see the other person as both intrusive, devouring, and rejecting at the same time. Closeness feels devouring, as if the other person's emotions, needs, or presence could take over the inner space. Even subtle signs of the other's influence, like their expectations, moods, or emotional pull, can feel like a threat to autonomy, while the same person's distance or indifference feels like rejection. And they carry a deep belief that taking someone else into account will always mean losing themselves. That connection comes at the cost of a connection with yourself. And this perception usually also forms early, of course, when a caregiver's attention was inconsistent, sometimes engulfing, sometimes withdrawn. And the nervous system learned that love and freedom to be yourself cannot coexist. So in adulthood, they crave connection, but instinctively pull away when it gets close, trying to protect their sense of self, and ended up feeling unseen instead. So both sides of the paradox recreate the original imbalance. The child who learned that becoming separate would mean being rejected. So both sides of the paradox recreate the original imbalance. The child who learned that becoming separate would mean being rejected. So in adulthood, they can be fully separate in relationships without feeling cut off. And that's where separation gets confused with isolation. And they don't know how to be their own person and still feel connected. And if any of this resonates with you, book a free 30-minute call with me to start changing these patterns. And as always, like, subscribe, comment, and I look forward to seeing you in my next videos.